Okay. If you can't see it for some reason, please let me know, but we should be good. So I'm going to share my screen. I can see the chat bar. Papillion. Nice, Jessica. So this is interactive. So if you have questions, ask them. If you have comments or insights, ask them. You know, the thing I always tell the people in our academy and in our community is, if you have a question, first of all, you're probably not the only one that has that question. Somebody else does too. So you're doing us all a favor by asking that question in the chat bar. I do my best to get to them. I know Emily, who popped in the beginning, she's going to be looking for them too. So I don't always see all of them, but I try really hard. But your question is going to help other people. Same with your comments, your ahas, when you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to use that, or that really works for me. I never thought of that. In this way, you're actually inspiring other people as well. So let's tap each other's brilliance while we're on this session today. Okay, so in the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about the courage to innovate. But in order to do that, we as a group need to come to 3 agreements. And the agreements are these. Number 1, I need to ask us all to have an open mind. I'm going to share things about science, stories from my world, stories from other industries that you have kind of nothing to do with in your day-to-day. But I promise you, if you constantly ask yourself, how do I apply this to my world? You'll get a lot out of our time together. For innovation, to be a strong innovator, we want to go wide and then bring it back and go deep. So we're going to do a little bit of that today. The second thing I need us to agree to is to engage. Let's chat on the chat bar. Let's interact. Let's roll up our sleeves. I want us really interacting and leaning in with each other. And then the third thing I need us to agree to is to give ourselves permission to innovate. Now, in order to do that, in fact, let's play a game, because I think this will bring this one to life. Here's what we're going to do. We as a group are going to play rock, paper, scissors, best 2 out of 3, old school, just how rock, paper, scissors is played. But here's how this is going to work, because you can all see me and I can't see you guys. So you're all going to play me. Feels like the deck is stacked here, doesn't it? I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, whatever I put up. You're going to put yours in the chat bar and we'll see. And then you can let me know if any of you win. But best 2 out of 3, you're going to play me. Put in the chat bar whatever you rock, paper, scissors, whatever you put up. Okay, everybody ready? Can you see? Am I on the screen? Yes. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, Brock, I see a lot of rocks. People beat me. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. Here we go. Oh, yeah, I beat some of you. Some of you beat me. 1, 2, 3. My kids think I need a better strategy, by the way. Nice. Okay, did anybody beat me in that? Some of you, I am pretty sure, did. You, Devonda, you did. All right, congratulations. Here's my question to you. Oh, Drew, 1 to 1 to 1. Nice. Here's my question to all of us. First of all, most of us knew how to play. Is that fair to say that we just kind of jumped into it? Even if we haven't played it in 10, 20, 30 years, we know how to jump into rock, paper, scissors. But why? Why is that? Why was that so easy for us to jump into? You can put that in the chat bar if you have some insight here. And what would happen if we flipped it? What would happen if, like life, or really the last 18 months, we disrupted and we changed the rules? In fact, let's experiment with how that feels. We're going to play rock, paper, scissors again, best 2 out of 3, but this time we're going to play opposite rules. Okay, let me make sure I get this right. So this time, paper beats scissors, scissors beats rock, and rock beats paper. Best 2 out of 3. Are you ready? Here we go. Put in the chat bar what you're doing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Trying to shake it up a little bit here. Those are scissors, by the way. All right, did anybody beat me that time? Here's my question to you before I share why I love this exercise and why we did it and how it gives us permission to and the courage to be innovators. Let me ask you this. What was that experience like, playing rock, paper, scissors opposite? Sometimes people will tell me it feels weird, it feels uncomfortable. How did it feel for you trying to play in the opposite way after, as someone said it in the beginning before we started playing, they said, you know, because we've been doing this forever, that's why we know how to do it. How did it feel, just in one word or a phrase, playing it opposite? Put that in the chat bar. How did that feel? Uncertain, Vonda, well said. Yes, because when we're doing things that are new and different, we don't even know what success looks like, do we? Or what's coming next, or how this change is going to impact the work that we do. I love that you said that. Yes. Janine, hesitant to play. Right, because it's different. It's awkward. And hey, wait a minute. We know these other rules over here. So why are we playing this new way? Well, a lot like life and work, I think we can all agree, we have to play this new way because the world around us has changed. Drew says uncomfortable. Yes, it is uncomfortable. You know, I love that you mentioned that, Drew, because I think in those moments of uncomfortable is where great innovation is found. And we've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable so that we can find that space. Jessica says awkward. Yeah, it is awkward, isn't it? Here's why I had us play this exercise. It goes to our agreements of open mind, engage, and giving ourselves permission to innovate. I think this exercise is a lot like particularly work in life in the last 18 months, where we knew one way of doing things. We had the habits, the behaviors, the routines. Sure, we improved and we did some innovation, but we knew the game, we knew the rules. And then in the last 18 months in particular, I don't have to tell all of you that those changed and the world changed quickly. And that uncertainty that you mentioned, that uncomfortableness, that change in direction has become a part of our day-to-day lives and our work. So what we need to do is give ourselves permission to play this new game and to know it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be awkward. There's going to be some hesitation. We're not going to be sure what success looks like sometimes. Oftentimes that hesitation to innovate and to push forward is actually just the old ways and the old routines holding on. So today and moving forward, the 3 agreements I want us to come to is number 1, have an open mind. Let's go far and wide to bring it deep. Number 2, engage, lean in, have these conversations, interact as much as you can in the chat bar. And number 3, give ourselves that permission that we need to push forward and try these new ways of doing things to innovate. All right, so give me a yes in the chat bar if you're ready to keep going, and we will start to dig in. If you can agree to those 3, open mind, engage, and permission. Excuse me. Yes, yes, let's go. Excellent. Okay, good. Great. We're all on the same page. Woo! Thank you, Dan. Let's roll. You guys are great. Oh, what a great, this is fun. Okay, here are the 3 things that I want to cover with you about the courage to innovate. Number 1 is I want to start with talking about the role of fear and being a strong innovator and leader. I think fear plays a big role in what we decide to do, how we decide to move forward. It is a part of our lives that's hard to ignore and that we shouldn't ignore because it often holds us back. So I want to talk about that. Then I want to talk about how to play to your everyday innovator strengths. So that's your unique style of innovation and the diversity of the strengths on your team. Understanding how you innovate and bring out your best self and bring out the best in others is going to help provide you that incredible foundation to kind of step up and innovate. And then the third one is the other side of the coin is now that we have the courage to innovate and we're strong innovators, how do we get buy-in for those ideas? How do we communicate in a way that actually gets us traction and moves the needle as opposed to getting us shut down too soon? So those are the 3 things I want to cover. Let's start by talking about fear. Here's the thing about fear. How many of you have had that moment, and I know I have, where you've been in a meeting and somebody else has had that courage to speak up or that courage to go after that idea, and you thought, oh, that person is fearless. If only I could be fearless. And then what happens is we put all this pressure on ourselves to be fearless. And when we're not, we feel like a failure. We feel like I can't be like that person who's fearless. I'm riddled with fear. Here's the thing. And I think this is fundamental to moving forward being an innovator. You can't let go of fear. And in fact, you can't be fearless. Here's the thing. Fear is hardwired into us. It's part of our human design. It's what saves us from a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes and what makes us turn quickly if a car's coming at us in the wrong direction. So we've got to let go of this pressure of being fearless. So you'll never hear me tell you to be fearless. But what we can do is push through, conquer, and harness fear. And I want to give you not only the permission to not have to worry about being fearless, not asking your teams to be fearless, but pushing through it, conquering it, and harnessing it so that you can navigate change and be that strong innovator. Here's the thing. So we have this primal brain and it puts us into fight, flight, or freeze. Now, as I'm going through these, I want you to share with all of us in the chat bar where you think you fall on this, what your default is. We all have a default. And I want you to understand this because oftentimes when fear takes over, we go into fight, flight, or freeze. Our primal brain takes over. And it shows up in one of three ways. And not always as kind of like extreme as we expect it to. It's in very subtle ways that we see across work all the time. So let me give you an example. So fight, if someone's in fight mode, you hear things like, well, this will never work, or we can't, or here's 10 things that are wrong with it. Right? That's actually someone in fight mode. And it's very hard to step up and innovate when you're in fight mode. Or they're in flight. Let's table this. I can't add this to my plate right now. Or my favorite, when their eyes gloss over and it's like, yeah, sure, whatever you think, which is really flight mode because they just don't want to deal with it. Or freeze. Freeze is when you kind of have that scrambled eggs in your brain and you think, I don't have anything to add. Or it's like, that awkward moment, or just garbledygook comes out, but you don't even know what you're saying and you're not in the moment. So when we're dealing with fear, which often holds us back from having that courage to innovate, it shows up as fight, flight, or freeze. Which one do you think is you? If you think about yourself and when you're kind of like, which one? So Jeremy goes into freeze, Dan goes into freeze, Amy is fight. Yeah, I'm a combination of freeze and flight, I think, or freeze and fight, actually. Freeze, yeah. So you'll notice this in yourself and you'll notice it in those around you. And it keeps us from innovating. It keeps us from pursuing those ideas. It keeps us from speaking up in the meeting when we know it's the right thing to do. It keeps us, that courage, a little bit at bay. And ultimately what courage really is, that courage to innovate, is just pushing through that fear. So let's talk about how to do that, how to push through fight, flight, or freeze. And I want to share with you a little bit about what's going on in the brain, because I think if you understand what's happening, then you'll understand how to get out of it and how to not let that paralyze you. So there's three things very quickly. One is we have something called the reticular activating system. I call it the RAS for short. I like to think of it as a brick wall. Its job is to keep out anything new that doesn't confirm pre-existing beliefs and let in the things that confirm what you already think to be true. It's hard to push through fear and hard to innovate when this RAS, this brick wall, is big and keeping everything out. It's what causes a lot of unconscious bias as well. The second one is something called the Myelin Effect, and that's that squiggly line on top of my head here. So the Myelin Effect is, think of it as basically a tissue, like a fatty tissue that lines your synapses, your wiring in your brain, makes you super fast, super efficient, great with skills that you are acquiring over time, but it keeps us stuck in tracks and it keeps us in repetitive thinking. And then the third is the lizard brain. And the lizard brain is that primal brain. It loves fight, flight, or freeze. Its job is to keep you safe and comfortable and warm and fuzzy. It becomes the negative chatter in your brain. So you can see you've got this incredible ability to innovate, and you've got this brick wall and this, hyper efficient track and this lizard brain kind of trying to keep you a little bit in the same place. And that's why it can feel exhausting and hard to innovate. So I'm going to give you some tools for how to overcome that, both for yourself and for those you lead. So let's talk about leading yourself, giving yourself that courage to innovate and stepping past that primal area that's going on and into your innovative mind. So number one, lead yourself by naming your lizard brain. All right, I know that sounds crazy, but go with me. Here's the thing. Research has shown that if we name our lizard brain, it takes it out of the driver's seat and puts it into the passenger seat. Now it's not something that controls us or really is us. It's actually something that we can manage, that we can actually push aside if we want to, because we've created a character for it. Research has actually shown this. So my lizard brain is called Bernard, because I can have conversations with Bernard and say, not today, Bernard. Do you have a lizard brain name? If you were to name your brain, your lizard brain, what would you call him? You can put that in the chat bar. The second one is, once you've named him or her, ask your lizard brain questions. Sometimes just taking a moment to go, hey, Bernard, why am I so riled up by Bob asking me these challenging questions? Then I can think about it for a second. Then I realize, oh, I'm riled up because I feel like he's threatening my authority or questioning my intelligence. That's what's really going on here. And that's why I'm suddenly in fight, flight, or freeze and shutting down and staying in my body. So question your lizard brain. All right, so Vonda calls her Susie, Tracy calls self. Listen up, self. I like it. The third one for leading yourself is take 3 breaths. Stress, that fear, lives in your neurological system, and it takes 3 deep breaths to get out of it and to calm it down and to move past it. So if you find yourself in fight, flight, or freeze and Bernard is taken over, give yourself 3 breaths. Chuck, Wilhelmina, I love it. These are such great names. Okay. You'll find that if you ask the questions and you take 3 breaths, you can manage your lizard brain and step up and have that courage to innovate. All right, let's talk a little bit about leading others, because we all work in teams, and whether that's people that report to us, our colleagues, our clients, our leadership, the people we report to, we've got to help everybody step up and get through that fear. So there are 3 things that I want to share with you. One is, I want you to play devil's advocate. Well, what if that wasn't true? Well, what if we did the opposite? When we play devil's advocate, we leap those tracks in our brain that are holding us back. We explore new potential in a safe way that doesn't make people feel like you're threatening them. You're just helping them see other perspectives. Number 2, one of my favorite questions is, what else could be true? Oftentimes, the reason it's hard for us to innovate is we get stuck in assumptions. We get stuck in one way of thinking. So asking the simple question of, well, what else could be true, allows us to open up and find new tracks, new opportunities. It gives us the courage to innovate by taking new paths. And the third one, tell me more. This is my favorite. And I want to share a story with you of what happened to me and why this works so well. So I was in charge of a strategy firm, and actually it was an urban marketing firm, and I was in charge of the strategy department, and I was building the department. That was my job when I first got there. It didn't exist before. We wanted to give that service offering to our clients beyond the tactical marketing. So they brought me in to do that. And every couple of weeks or so, I had to fly to Chicago, where our parent company was, and give a report to all the mucky mucks in the room of what services and revenue offerings and the P&Ls and just all of it, where I think we should head. And one meeting, I was standing up and I was feeling so good about myself. I had the most beautiful PowerPoint presentation. I had done all the research. I had pulled it all together. I had done customer feedback, and I'm up there presenting. And I'm feeling really good. And then this leader from across the table asked me a question that I hadn't planned for. It was challenging and I hadn't considered it. And I froze in that moment. It was like all my months of research, all my years of experience just went out the door, and I didn't know what to do. And my heart's pounding a little bit. And I'm starting to have that like awkward under the clothes sweat too. And I'm so scrambled, and I need to buy myself time. So I turn to her and I say, that's a really interesting question. Tell me more. And then I stopped because I needed time. But you know what? The most amazing thing happened. First of all, I bought myself that 3 breaths. I bought myself the time I needed to get my feet back under me, collect my thoughts. But there was something else kind of magical that happened too. By saying to her, tell me more, it gave her time to explain why she was asking the question, what was deep underneath that question, what her real concerns were, where all this was coming from. Had I just stopped in my freeze and tried to answer her question, I wouldn't have bought myself time, and I wouldn't have gotten more out of her. We ended up having a deeper, richer conversation that led to far more innovation and a way better outcome because of the simple words put together. Tell me more. So when you're up against yourself or someone else who's in fight, flight, or freeze, they're giving you this will never work, or here's a challenging question that's going to throw you off, or they're kind of in that flight mode where they're like, whatever, tell me more. It buys you time and it leads to deeper innovation. All right, here's my question for you. Make sure I can get back here. When you think about how to harness and push through the fear by these tactics, which ones speak to you? Naming your lizard brain, questioning your lizard brain, take 3 breaths. Which ones can you do immediately? Play devil's advocate, ask what else could be true, and start using phrases like, tell me more. Which one speaks to you? While you're typing, I'm going to push forward. Take 3 breaths. Yes. Yeah, good. You love Tell Me More, Janine. Yes, it is. Tell me more. It's one of the most powerful things we can say to someone. It's a question without questioning, and it allows all of us the space to be innovative. All right. So now that we've pushed through the fear and we've got the tools to do that, I want to talk about you, because this all starts with you being the leader your team, your organization, and the marketplace needs. Oh, sorry. I just want to tell you, Joy said, I tell people I'm a crockpot thinker and need time to process. Love that phrase, crockpot. Love it. Okay. So let's talk about, speaking of which, what type of thinker you are and how you innovate, because this is where that courage to innovate really starts. It starts with you and this incredible thing that you have between your ears that gives you an incredible competitive advantage and is an incredible talent that we all have. So when it comes to being an innovator, I used to believe, like a lot of us, that innovation was something for the select few. You had to have that, cool purple streak in your hair and the funky glasses, and you knew all the restaurants to hang out in, or maybe you had a cool title like VP of Creative or, Director of New Ideas, but that innovation really was a select few, and either you were born with it or you weren't. I used to believe that innovation was this left-right brain thing. So either I was doing super kind of analytical stuff, like I was doing Excel spreadsheets or taxes or scheduling, or I was doing super creative stuff like photography and painting, like very artsy stuff, but never the two shall meet. I used to believe that being an innovator was something that you had to, step outside your comfort zone and dare to be fearless, because I think I read that somewhere in a magazine somewhere. But my 25 years of work and research and digging into the neuroscience behind it and the behavioral psychology and just how the brain works helped me blow those assumptions out the door. And I came to realize 3 really important things that I want to share with you, because it'll help you unlock this incredible talent, this skill that you have inside of you. Number 1, by researching and by interviewing neuroscience, I discovered that we actually all have the structures for intelligence and innovation. So intelligence is like deep grooves, boundaries, like a superhighway. And innovation is more like loosely connected side roads in your brain. But the cool part is we have both, and they're actually distinct, meaning you don't have to have a degree from a fancy college, or you don't have to kind of have been raised a certain way to have both of them. You have both. The second thing I discovered is that, while we used to believe that innovation and that ability to be an innovator was relegated to a certain part of your brain that was either developed or not, turns out what research now shows is that's not true. Being an innovator is a whole brain experience. It lights up the whole brain. The third thing of the science that I think is important for all of us to understand and really relevant to this conversation about courage is that our brains have something called neuroplasticity. What that means is that while our brain isn't technically a muscle, in this way it acts like one. It can, if we don't exercise it, the brain, it gets weaker. If we do, it gets stronger. So back in the day, the science community used to believe that your brain was done growing at 25, that whatever you had, that's good for you, you're done, yay, that's your brain. And once you hit over 25, people like me who are 48, oh well, that's it, you're set in your ways. Turns out that's not true. That neuroplasticity that we have keeps us growing and evolving. And when it comes to the innovative mind, this is especially true. If we haven't intentionally activated and exercised our innovative mind, it's going to feel weak, dormant, exhausting. If we have, we're going to start feeling stronger and stronger and stronger. And what I think is really exciting about that for all of us is that means no matter where we think we are on our ability to innovate, wherever we are, if we're like, oh, Tamara, it's so weak and exhausting, it feels hard. Or if you're over here, Tamara, I'm a rock star innovator and I want to get even better, we have that ability to improve and to innovate. And what my research came together to help me understand is that being an innovator is universal. We all do it. However, how we innovate is unique to each of us. And in fact, there's 9 styles or triggers, as I like to call them, because they activate, they're like levers in your brain. There's 9 ways that we as humans actually innovate. And what we all have is something that is the combination of our top 2 power triggers in the presence of a dormant trigger. Those come together to create our unique, everyday innovator style. And that's something that is unique to each of us. And your 2 power triggers, whatever they are for you, that is your wellspring of innovation. That's how you naturally innovate the best. That is those kind of like power tools inside your brain. And then your dormant trigger, I don't like to call it a weakness because I feel like that's a comparison game, but think of your dormant trigger as where you play the least. It's going to exhaust you to try to play there. Now, 2 things. One is I want to share with you just a slight overview of what each of them are. And what I'd love for you to do is, if you don't know your everyday innovator style, I want you to put in the chat bar what you think you are as I kind of give a brief overview of them. And here's the thing. I have a bonus for all of you for investing in yourself, for being here, for making innovation a priority. It's one of the top skills that we need in today's rapidly changing world. Whether you are an employee, an employer, an entrepreneur, whatever field you're in, that ability to adapt and pivot and to think differently, that matters. Oh my gosh, you guys are already getting it. Okay, let me go over them for you. So I have a gift for you as we get a little bit further along. So hang tight, because I know people always then jump and go to my site to get the assessment. Just hang tight, I got something for you. All right, let me go through these. One is collaborative. You bring whole innovation. You pull disparate people and ideas and experiences together to create that 360 innovation. If you have experiential as your power trigger, you're all about innovation. Yes, Tracy, you have a combination. It's two power triggers. If you're an experiential, you are innovation in motion. You are all about the real world, about where the rubber meets the road. That's how you innovate, by doing. You bring tangible innovation to the table. Fluid is all about not just navigating ambiguity, but taking that ambiguity and turning it into innovation, into clarity. You are so good at taking that mess and not just making meaning out of it, but finding the innovation. You bring concise innovation to the table. Futuristic is all about Tomorrowland. You see today's problems as tomorrow's opportunities. You're always 10 steps ahead, forest through the trees. You bring forward-thinking innovation to the table. Imaginative is all about playing in the gaps, novel, new. You bring novel innovation to the table. You create what doesn't even yet exist. Inquisitive, you're all about deep innovation. For you, the innovation is in the questions, not the answers. So you're so good at challenging assumptions, pulling back the layers of the onion, going deep. If you have instinctual as part of your 2 power triggers, you're more circuitous in your thinking. So it's like A to L to X to Y, back over to A. But because of that, you are brilliant at turning information into insights. You are brilliant at actually finding the patterns and the connections that the rest of us miss. So you bring insightful innovation to the table. If you're a risk taker, you innovate in that uncomfortable moment by leaping. So while some people get stuck on the ledge, you jump. And in that jumping, you build that plane and you innovate. You innovate in the uncomfortable. Because of that, you tend to bring bold innovation to the table. Tweaker is all about editing and evolving and adjusting. For you, things are never final. It's always about kind of, what can I do? You know that great innovation is just one little adjustment away. Because of that, you bring optimized innovation to the table. Now, one thing that I hope is very clear as I share all these is one is not better than the other. These are all important. They are all very powerful triggers. And when you understand how you innovate and you understand your 2 power triggers and how they come together, I think that's really where the magic happens. That's where you really understand how to perform at your peak, bring more innovative ideas and solutions to the table, solve those sticky challenges because you're leveraging your innovative mind, transform obstacles into opportunities, have a stronger, more valued voice, make the ability to pivot and adapt one of your strongest skills, because it becomes a mindset and simply how you act and behave. It's like a habit for you. And you lead strong through uncertainty and change. Understanding your everyday innovator style is without a doubt the springboard for having that courage to innovate, because it starts to become natural to you. You start to see the opportunity to innovate in everything you do. I'm loving seeing all these. Some of you, I know I've taken it because we probably connected, God, that was months ago now at the other event, but I love it. And I want you to recognize your innovator style really matters. And let me give you 3 examples of people who have taken our course and in our academy and how they've brought it to life. They're allowing me to share their stories. So Kelly here is a collaborative tweaker. So whole innovation and optimized innovation. And in her company that is full of silos and departments, she's the one that breaks down the silos and has become a hub of innovation in her organization. She is known for her ability to get things unstuck. This is Mia. Mia owns a branding and marketing firm. She helps her clients get out of old thinking, get out of that paralysis, and pursue new opportunities because she's a risk taker, bold innovation, and experiential, tangible innovation. You better believe her partners find her to be the go-to source every time they're trying to solve a problem or trying to seize an opportunity, which is really work every single day. And this is Jake. So Jake works in a company inundated by data, and he's an inquisitive, instinctual, so deep in that connective innovation. He turns information into insights, keeping the company ahead of change. That's the value he brings. So imagine for a moment, if you not only understood your natural innovation strengths, your everyday innovator style, but you aligned your daily actions to actually leverage them and do them more. That's what these three did. I'm so proud of them and the work that they do. They provide tremendous value to their organizations and to their clients and to their colleagues. And oh, by the way, the other part that I think is really exciting about this is they have an increased level of satisfaction enjoying their work, because being an innovator, creative problem solving, critical thinking, it actually taps the reward centers of our brain. So it feels good to innovate, and they absolutely have felt that. And then once you understand how to bring out the best in yourself, you can then understand how to bring out the best in those around you and leverage that diversity of thinking. Ideas that come from birds of a feather tend to die, but ideas that come from diversity of thinking tend to thrive. So when we understand that, hey, Emily's a risk taker, inquisitive, so she's bold and she asks a lot of questions, but Elizabeth is a tweaker and inquisitive, so she's gonna ask questions too, but she's gonna want to adjust and edit. We understand how to leverage the people around us. And that's where we see teams go from high-performing individuals or medium-performing teams into high-performing teams where everybody's collaborating and innovating together. And we have a solid communication, a solid foundation for which to work off. Tapping the power of the diversity of everyday innovators on your team is your greatest competitive advantage. I just want to share this pie chart really quickly so you could see, once you understand your assessment, if you don't know it already, I wanted you to see where you fit in. So of the tens of thousands of people across the globe, this is how the percentages of power triggers play out. So that you can see, regardless of your combination, whether you're a tweaker, risk taker, or a fluid experiential, your everyday innovator style is unique to you, an incredibly powerful part of helping you shine and those around you shine. This is a team that I've worked with. They are in electronics reselling, and this is an internal auditing team, and they used the power of their own everyday innovator styles and came together to collaborate as a team to solve what was a multi-million-dollar challenge in their organization. They did it by understanding the value that they bring, dialing it up, having that courage to step up and innovate, and having that respect and that collaboration with the team of people who have diverse sets. All right, so as I said, I have a little gift for you towards the end because I want to make sure that you all know your everyday innovator style. So if you go to my website, which here I can put in the chat bar, so you can click on it. When we're done during your next break and you use this code Infotec, it'll give you 45% off the everyday innovator style, the assessment. So huge discount. I think we left it open until end of day Saturday to give you a chance because you got other great stuff to go to in this conference. But I want you to have that. It's important to me that you have that incredible foundation, that full report that helps you know your power triggers, your strength to step up and have the courage to innovate. Now, before we go, I want to make sure to talk about that other thing, which is about communicating for buy-in. How many of us have been in that meeting where we have just been all excited? We've got this great presentation, or maybe we're in a one-on-one meeting and we come with our best idea and we get these pictures on the other side. Please tell me I'm not alone. How many of you have experienced that, where you felt like you've had the idea or solution that has been brilliant, could solve the problem, open up new opportunities, and all you get on the other side is, huh. Okay, and you're going, don't you see it? Don't you see the brilliance? So I want to share a story with you. A while back, I was hired by Johnson & Johnson to reinvent baby care. And I was so excited, and I assembled the most amazing team. And for 6 months, we played with baby toys, and we checked out formula. We talked to dads, which was at that time really the first time in J&J history. And over 6 months, we had created a range of new product ideas that would transform baby care, close-in ones that would use and leverage the brands and the manufacturing that they have, far-out ones that would force them to stretch a little bit. And we all flew to headquarters and we shuffled into the CEO's conference room. Maybe you know the one. It had that big wood table that took up most of the room and those old creaky chairs. And on the wall was oil paintings of CEOs past, and none of them were smiling. And everybody who's anybody is at this table. It's my client to my right, his boss, the VP of this department, the head of that department, and my team is presenting the ideas. And I am beaming with pride. I'm so proud of my team and the work that we did and these ideas that they're presenting. But as my team's presenting, I keep hearing this whispering to my right. And it's not my client, it's his boss. Here's the thing. I don't remember his name, but I can tell you that he had a mustache so big that it moved when he spoke. And every idea that we shared, he was over there going, didn't we try that already? Didn't Joanne in R&D look into that? Didn't another competitor try to launch that and it failed? Didn't another consultant give us this idea and we did nothing with it? He squashed the life out of every idea. And that was the longest, angriest plane ride home. And I started, in my 12 steps of rage, I started with, how dare Mustache Man? I mean, he should not be dealing with innovation projects or be making decisions. I mean, he's obviously been there too long. He's jaded. When I get off this plane, I'm going to call them and I'm going to tell them they need to fire him. And then I went on to my poor client. Well, how dare he? I mean, if he can't manage the internal communication to get buy-in for ideas, why should he be leading innovation projects? When I got off this plane, I'm going to call him and tell him that he should be fired. And then I went on to my poor team. Well, obviously my team didn't know what they were doing and they snowed one over on me. And by the time we get to baggage claim, I'm firing them all. Fortunately for everyone, it was a long plane ride home. And by the time I landed in Denver, I realized who was really at fault. And I know you see it. It was me. Here's the thing. We had spent months pushing the boundaries, thinking about how to solve this, just steeped in this area. And then we room with a bunch of people who are looking at this stuff cold. We pushed our brilliance onto them and we expected them to get it. Obviously, here's the thing. Ideas don't sell themselves. And when we push our brilliance onto other people, we actually shut them down. We shut down their openness to what we're saying. So Mustache Man taught me a really valuable lesson that day. He taught me that innovation has its own language. And if you want to get buy-in for your ideas, you got to change your language. If you change your language, you change your outcomes. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to grab my water bottle. So let's say I have this water bottle. This is my idea. And I'm like, hey guys, I have this water bottle and it heats up and cools down and it reads my thumbprint so it knows what vitamins I need and puts it in there. And it's got this no tip ability to it so it never spills. What do you think? All right, I can't see you, but I'm pretty sure there's silence happening because the chat bar is not lighting up with, yeah, that sounds amazing. I'd buy that. Yeah, exactly. Because I'm pushing it. Here's what I did. I forced you into an up or down vote. So oftentimes, tell me more, Jeremy, nice. Oftentimes, when we present our ideas, we push people into an up or down vote. We force them to either love it or hate it. And here's the thing. We're humans. So we're built, remember, to resist. Remember that brick wall. We're built to resist. So what do? We poke holes in it. We say no. We minimize the idea. So we, as the presenter, have got to get out of pushing our brilliance onto people and forcing them into up or down votes. So when I say, what do you think? What's the next steps? Where do we go? I'm forcing you into that up or down vote. Mustache Man taught me, and I'm going to teach you, change my language to change my outcome. So here's what I want you to do the next time. Next time you're presenting, whether this is a one-on-one meeting or a big group, when I say, here's my idea, water bottle, thumbprint. Hey, what would you do to strengthen this idea? What would you do to strengthen it? Now I've got your wheels turning. When I do this live, I can see people in the audience go, oh, yeah, well, I would probably do this. Or when I bring people on stage to do this one with me, they'll say, oh, well, I would do a different size, or I would make the water clear, or whatever. Here's the thing. When we ask people, what would you do to strengthen the idea? We're bringing them on board for the conversation. So I learned some power statements, some power questions that have helped me gain incredible traction with my ideas, help my clients get buy-in simply by changing how we present. So that first one was, what would you do to strengthen the idea? The second one is, what does this idea need to include to work for you? Let them tell you. There's no way we've thought of everything. That's never the case. Frankly, it's egotistical of us to think that. They have something to contribute. Let's let them. And number three, and by the way, this is my favorite for people who are super analytical and poke holes and everything. And I know that Because I used to be married to one, and I'd come home and I'd be like, babe, I have this great idea. And he'd go, pew, 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 pew. And I'd walk away like, oh, never mind. It's horrible. But here's the thing. We need those people. They see gaps that we don't see. So they may be frustrating to us, but they help us move ideas forward. But we got to get them working for us. For the analytical, the super analytical ones, I say, what holes do you see and how would you fill them? They're brilliant at that. So let's let them tell us that. And then let's leverage them to figure out how to get it better, how to make the idea better. Change your language, change your outcomes. If you haven't already, please take a screenshot of this slide and start using this language in innovation conversations. You'll be amazed. It also not only gives you the courage to innovate, I find that asking these questions to people gives them the permission and the courage to innovate with you instead of shutting you down. I also want to add in a bonus one because I know this is a challenge, and that is working with legacy thinkers who are constantly shutting us down, telling us, no, that's not the way it used to be. The success I had 10 years ago, right? Fill in the blank. Here's the thing. And do you all have those legacy thinkers? We all have them somewhere in our organization or on our team, and we need them. And you know what? They do have brilliant experience to bring to the table, but we've got to figure out how to leverage them and move them forward. For them, I have found something that we call guided questions really helps. And that is simply this. What didn't work then, and what would you do differently now? Let them tell you, hey, 10 years ago, it didn't work because of X, Y, Z. That's important for you to know. But what would you do differently now? That's saying, hey, the marketplace has changed, the dynamics have changed, our employee needs have changed, our client needs have changed, move them forward. I find that in the legacy thinkers that I work with, if I can ask them guided questions that move them from yesterday to today, they will come along the innovation journey with me. And frankly, it opens them up to have the courage to innovate as well. Another slide, absolutely take a screenshot. I want to leave you with this very awkward photo of me from 1980 something. I think this is my sophomore year's picture. But I share this with you because that year was pivotal for me to have the courage to innovate. Like all of us 14-year-olds, I had a closet full of clothing. Now it was the 80s, so the fashion wasn't good, but I had a closet full. And, you know, all my girlfriends would come over and borrow them. Well, one day, Jill was rummaging through my closet looking for the latest off-the-shoulder sweater to borrow. And she walked out and I said, that'll be $2. She looked at me and I looked at her, and then she handed me $2. In that moment, I realized something. Hey, there's an opportunity to do this differently. There's an opportunity to take what's going on and actually make money off of it. There's an opportunity here to innovate. And in that moment, I took a deep breath, I gulped, and I had the courage to innovate by something as simple as just taking what I already had, what already existed, and turning it into a business. I share that with you because I want that same courage, that same gulp that you have to take first to have the courage to innovate. Like I said, we can't be fearless, but we can push through it. And when we understand how we innovate, we understand our natural innovation strengths, and we start really using them, we can find those moments of innovation all around us. Innovation isn't just about the big breakthrough, the blue skies, the out of the box. Sometimes innovation, the best innovation, is just rearranging the box that's right in front of you. I want to thank you all so much. I'm cool hanging out for a couple questions if you have them. I didn't see any in the chat bar, so I think we're okay. But I would love to know, before you guys pop off, what I'd love to know is what was the most valuable out of this session? What are you going to take away from this session? I think I'd love to hear it, but I also think we help each other by putting that in the chat bar too. So just take a second to put in a phrase, a sentence. What's kind of your big takeaway from this session? And if you have a question, feel absolutely free to ask. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. Oh, you're welcome. Good. Oh, you're welcome, Tracy. Thank you. You got a great group. Good interaction. Innovation sometimes is about just having that conversation. What would you do to strengthen the idea? Yeah, Colleen, that language makes a big difference. When we push our brilliance onto people, we put up their walls super fast. And we don't mean to. We think the idea should sell itself, but it turns out it doesn't. So I'm glad that works for you. And I'm glad that tell me more was a big one earlier on. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. And hey, if you didn't, go get your innovator style, because I would love for you to have that information in your back pocket. I think it'll springboard you and give you more courage, because innovation won't feel hard and exhausting and complicated. It'll just be there for you. It's in your mind already. Yeah, Crystal, I deal with a lot of legacy thinkers. Yeah. I'll give you another one real quick, Crystal, because I deal with a lot too. Another way to phrase that is, what happened then and what variables have changed? And that's kind of forcing them to recognize, all right, our customer needs have changed, the pricing has changed, our competition has changed. So you're still honoring like, all right, so what happened then? And then what variables do you think have changed since then? So it's getting them thinking into the future. I'm a big believer, by the way, that we really need to honor our varsity team, our legacy thinkers. I think they're invaluable, and there's a tension that happens because they come to the table feeling irrelevant. We come to the table pushing change, and then we see friction. But we can get over that friction if we take on the responsibility of moving them forward. You can see I could do a whole nother hour of other stuff on innovation, but for Drew, changing the language to gain buy-in. Sometimes I feel like I face resistance for the sake of resistance. Yes, this breakout session alone makes this day huge value. Oh, thank you, Drew. I appreciate that. You know what I'd say, Drew, about the resistance is I think people have their guard up, and right now in particular, people are exhausted from change. So when we come in with like, here's a new idea, all they see is, I've got to change me again. I've got to change who I am, how I work, and I've got to add more work to my plate. So we got to figure out ways to go around, through, and under the brick wall, because over is not going to work. And in fact, oftentimes, interestingly, Drew, when we do workshops with clients where we're doing our innovation jam sessions where they pick a challenge and we come in and facilitate virtual or live, what I found is that the first thing that happens is we have to address innovator styles and the elephants in the room, and what you said is it. Like there's this invisible thread of resistance that's happening. So we have to get over that before we can even get to the ideas. Alyssa says, I sometimes feel like the outsider, being very artistic and right-brained. Do you think artists have a harder time blending in? Do I think artists have a hard time blending in? So let me answer that. That's a great question. Let me answer it in two ways. One is, I actually think we all have the ability to innovate, right? So my definition, by the way, of innovation is think differently about what's right in front of you to create an advantage. So innovation is something we can all do. Being artistic is a little different. I think that the artistic people who are bent towards the arts tend to have a harder time communicating in a linear way that other people are going to hear it. So I have a person on my team who's super artistic, and sometimes I find that their challenge in blending in there's two things. Isn't so much that they don't have the brilliant ideas, it's that they think in this way, and so they're communicating this way, and we've got these group of people over here. Here's the other thing I'd say, though. When I know that about you and I understand how you innovate and you understand about me how I innovate, I can use that difference of yours and I can actually make it a competitive advantage, meaning I know how to leverage you, I know when to use you, I know how to bring out your brilliance, and I see where it matters. We've done a lot of work with teams that weren't getting along. And, well, what was that person doing? That person's weird. I don't know what that person does all day. And oftentimes what that really boils down to is a lack of understanding of each other's styles and differences and a lack of respect. So if, Alyssa, you're feeling like I'm not getting the respect, so like, was it Rodney Dangerfield, just to age myself? I get no respect. But if that's how you're feeling, it could be because they don't understand how you do what you do and what you bring to the table. And that conversations need to be had as well. So I think if you've got a team of people who really understand that about each other, that's easy to overcome. But if you don't, then it starts to raise mistrust and it makes collaboration harder. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I know so many of you are still on. If you have other questions, put them in the chat bar now. Otherwise, I will let you go off to other things. Emily's telling me.
Thank you, Tamara. That was absolutely excellent. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
My pleasure.
What is the best way, if people do have questions, then they continue throughout the day for them to get in touch with you and ask those questions?
Yeah, our website is the hub. So go to our website for everything. That's really how you can reach me. That's how you can find the assessment. That takes you to all roads lead to there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And everyone, thank you for staying on and being so engaged. We have about a 10-minute break before the next set of breakout sessions start. So get up, move around, or go meet some people, go to the expo booths. And thank you all so much.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, everybody.